The key thing for me when it comes to prioritization is that we should just never lose sight of the fact that prioritization is really just this kind of connective tissue between, say if I've been using the terminology product spine a lot recently. And so this idea of like the strategy, the roadmap, and the task list as really being something that is kind of anchored in the decision-making we do today. And so prioritization ends up being really a way that we use our strategy to then decide what goes into our roadmap. And maybe that like area between roadmap and then tasks themselves could be called prioritization, but also that space between kind of strategy and roadmap could be called prioritization. And so I think it's really key that we do not forget that it's really about how are we enabling our strategy in some way, how are we actually solving problems for our customer, and whatever the intersection is between like a business need and our customer really is the way that we should end up doing that. When it comes to frameworks, I guess I tend to use an awful lot of them. I think the best way to do this is actually most recently with a kind of a larger team within our group. We ended up looking at a bunch of different ways to do portfolio management across their entire list of products. And so we're talking about like tens of products potentially in how we should actually do not only resourcing, so who's going to spend their time on what at what ratio, but also what projects inside of that are very valuable. And so in that particular case, I actually would walk them through kind of things like the Eisenhower matrix. We would look at things like the spectrum across the Kent Beck's 3X model, which is really on the like an S curve where all these different things, even the idea of like McKinsey's 3 time horizons. And so looking at those, I think you start to get an idea of like the comfort level from each of the different like kind of ways of doing this. And we ended up finding a way to get into not only like bucketing of things into different like quintiles, and then the idea of like stack ranking. And then from there, I think you can have like a better conversation about like, are we actually putting our money where our mouth is when it comes to like resources and prioritization, and how in alignment with the strategy is that. So those are kind of things that I do, but I think like giving people options in the way that you end up doing prioritization is really valuable, and at least understanding more kind of the nuance of the prioritization that you end up doing. So that's what I would say.